There had been a lot of discussion about trying to recognize the history of the race here in Hopkinton and try to have a more permanent identification of the race year-round rather than just 1 month or 1 week during the year. And Tim Kilduff and a number of folks did some research, and it became apparent that the connection of George Brown, actually the Brown family to Hopkinton in general, but George Brown specifically to the race, was a strong and historical connection, and made some sense. And a lot of people who've been here longer than I have really appreciate the image and the recognition that George has received here.
Well, what we had to do yesterday was excavate for the foundation for the statue. And we excavated through the loam and the topsoil and the subsoil down to some solid material, which is basically glacial till here in Hopkinton. And that was 4.5 feet down. So we got all of the soft material out. We filled the excavation with gravel and compacted it as we were filling. And we brought it up to the level of the base of the statue. So in the meantime, we actually ordered some granite from New Hampshire. And that granite will be the base of the statue. It's a 4 foot by 4 foot by 1 foot thick piece of New Hampshire granite, which matches almost all of the granite around the common here and the Kyriakidis statue base. We will place that on the gravel that we've put into the excavation here, and then the statue itself can be placed onto the granite.
Well, I started working with Tim Kilduff a number of years ago and talking about the idea of trying to place a sculpture or something to really commemorate the start of the Boston Marathon in a permanent way that would also create an icon for the town. We're amazed that nothing had been done so far, and felt it was sort of high time to really celebrate the town's involvement with the marathon. As we were doing research and finding out about a number of the different players in the past that really worked with the marathon, we had always known about George Brown. George V. Brown had started the race, and we discovered more things about how he had an award-winning farm right here in town. Graduated from the high school, Hopkinton High School, in 1897, class of 97, huh? Wrong century though. He became a more and more compelling figure. I guess he was a selectman at one point. His name is on the Doughboy sculpture directly across from where his sculpture will be. And so over time, we were able to raise the funds. Of course, Tim really was extremely instrumental in the fundraising and political process in making this whole thing happen. I'm the sculptor and worked from historic photographs and historic newspaper articles from the early 1900s to about the 1930s or so, researching the way he looked and his personality and character. And there's just some really wonderful stories about him. And we've actually put together a little booklet at the public library here in town that chronicles many of his endeavors, bringing the ice capades to Boston, bringing the Bruins, running the Boston Garden and the Boston Arena, and just some other amazing things that he's done. His involvement in the Olympics in the early days. Under his auspices, the U.S. team won its first silver medal. I think it was 1922 or something like that. So just a amazing person.
I'm a civil engineer.
Okay.
And I've lived in Hopkinton since 1959, so I have a pretty good idea what you'll find when you dig a hole in Hopkinton. And it is here on the Common, because it is a common. Of course, this was in the very earliest days of Hopkinton's history. It was a common for all of the local residents, and they grazed sheep or cattle or whatever they had on the common. So this is basically a farmed area. So it's not surprising that there's a very deep loam and topsoil here, which we found yesterday as we were excavating. That's why we ended up going 4.5 feet deep into the ground.
The dedication of the statue was actually a year ago with the marathon concert kickoff with the Metro West Symphony Orchestra. And for the last year, George has been keeping guard at the police station. So about 9 months ago, there were a number of folks in town clamoring for a better home for the statue, for the sculpture. And we began interacting with a bunch of different town boards, and the process began, and it's taken about 6-7 months to kind of work our way through. But hopefully it'll be done within a day here and ready to go by race day.
Especially looking forward to running by it in the marathon. I'll be running this year, and it's it's just a wonderful thing all the way around for the town, for the marathon, and for all the tourists and participants of great events.